Hi there, tech people. This is Sean Worker. It's another edition of the Adapters TechX version, and it's going to be an exciting conversation today with Michael Frenkel and our friend Glenn Haussman from No Vacancy, and it's going to be a different type of tech chat. So what we're going to talk about today is how to influence thinking and how we're going to influence the thinking of investors, what they think about, and help them navigate through what looks like winners and maybe some that are losers that they should avoid. And we got a couple of experts on the call today. A lot of people know Glenn. Glenn is the voice of the space, the travel, tourism, hospitality space. And you know, when we were talking offline, you know, you're a big strategic thinker. You're influencing really some of the top VCs and PE companies in the tech space and on the edges of that. And then equally, you're advising strategy. You're helping companies thinking about how they're optimizing their messaging. There's a lot in there. So if you were to say, what is your superpower? Why are all these cool people hanging out with you?
Well, thanks for having me, Sean. It's a pleasure. Always great to be here to Glenn. And you know what? The place to start is probably with Glenn. I think of Glenn as John Lennon or Paul McCartney. Okay. Glenn is the Beatle, right? He's the guy out front who writes the great songs, makes the girls go crazy, entertains and informs. I'm George Martin, right? I'm the producer of the Beatles, right? I sit at the board and take those wonderful sounds that in Glenn's case, you know, is media, but you know, he spoke about VC, PE, major brands in the industry, right? They've all got messages, right? They've all got thoughts about the industry and where it's going. They've all got strategic direction. Who's the guy who sits at the mixing board and mixes those thoughts together in a way that they come out sounding like the Beatles? So that's kind of me. I think you know, the industry is in a moment of incredible change right now. Everybody's grasping for the next big thing and their place in it. And my role is to just kind of connect, right? Connect smart people with smart thoughts to other people with smart thoughts, and let the chips fall where they may.
So Glenn, do you agree with the fact that you're just the Beatles?
Right. I was hoping we could be a better band, but I think he's absolutely right about that. And that's the thing about Michael is everybody who's in the know knows who Michael Frenkel is. Just because he's not a familiar face in this media stream doesn't mean he's not a familiar face in those boardrooms. And that's really important for helping to shape the future of hospitality. And that's why I love getting to work with him as well on our own special podcast series.
What are you seeing from the businesses that you're working with? And you can say them names if you want to, or give us a case study or something like that. Some kind of idea about what you're tackling that influences an investment. What do you advise? How do you advise?
Well, listen, you know, I've listened to some of your podcasts and obviously listening to the narratives going on in the industry. You always hate to begin an answer with the word pandemic, but let's begin with the word pandemic, right? Because it's a milestone and a marker in where the industry's been. Post-pandemic, just because of all the forces that have come together, right? The new modes of meeting and speaking and interacting, the new economic realities of the hotel industry, of funding, the tremendous availability of capital on the one hand, but soaring inflation and soaring costs on the other, right? It's kind of created an entirely new landscape for this industry. And yeah, what I try to bring and think about is sort of where the kind of the critical intersections of all those forces and how are they impacting the different players in the space. You know, it's an interesting time where new players are getting involved in different things from different vantage points, new modes and orders and structures, and you've just got to be quick and connected to take advantage of it.
What are the traits of the businesses that both of you are looking at and you're seeing that says, you know, that's a good business, that should exist in the tech market, it solves problems?
Well, look, I mean, it's, you know, at the end of the day, Sean, it's as simple as problem and solution, right? It's, you know, I was listening to, you've mentioned on previous podcast, Brian Chesky, right? And I was listening to him being interviewed on a program. here are these guys sitting in a room who identified a problem, right? They had space, they had an alternative idea for use of space. They sensed a moment in the market in which people might be ready to consider staying in someone else's home or apartment rather than bucking up for a big hotel with all the formalities that go with it. And they produced the solution, right? All the rest is the mechanics, right? The raising money, the branding, the go to market. That's a matter of business acumen. It's the insight that matters, right? It's the insight at the very beginning of a problem that needs solving and the way to get it done that, for me anyway, defines a true entrepreneur.
And I would add, Sean, a product that can't just be a component of another product. I'm seeing a lot of great ideas come, but then you're going to get well, we're Periscope, we're awesome, we're going to do live video, and then all the established players come in, and then your company goes away. So it's got to be a great idea. And the other thing I would add is there's got to be people involved that have access that's going to help you sell that product to market and build that trust factor in an extremely accelerated fashion.
Both of you, you're now speaking to two people. One is an investor, and the other is the owner, right? The startup. What are your 2 or 3 tips and takes for the startup? What are your 2 or 3 tips for the investor? Glenn, you go first.
Yeah, go for
it. 2 or 3 tips for the investor, right? Really, sure. I would say tip number 1: look past hype. I'm seeing it again and again with a lot of products that come to market. Cryptocurrencies would be one. A lot of hype pushed it up. Now all of a sudden there's a crash and burn. So be really careful to make sure that you're using critical thinking when making these decisions. And then again, I'll just reiterate, make sure it's a product that has legs to it, and it's not just a flash in the pan of the moment idea. For the other category was what for who?
The startup.
For the startup. Yeah. Really think this through holistically, understand all the different components of the hospitality market, and try to find a solution that once you have it, it's like, duh, we should have always been doing that. I think that your gut will then tell you is the right type of product. Michael?
All right. We now move to gut to Michael. So,
all right, so I'm gonna give you one each, and they're mirror reflections of the other. For the investors, write your check, do your due diligence, make your investment, but get involved in the business, right? I can't tell you how many investment startups I've seen over 10 years now working in the space where, an investor writes a check, there's a big vision, there's a go-to-market plan, and then we'll see at a board meeting, right? Well, by the time the board meetings happen, 3 months, 6 months, a year later, the business is in a different place. The VP of sales is doing something god awful. It needs to be fired. And guess what? We're not where we want it to be in order to have that 3, 5, 7-year exit. Mm-hmm. Get involved in the business, know your founders, and stay close. For founders and startups, get investors who want to be involved in your business. Investors are who they are and where they are because they can write big checks, but they're also who and where they are because they come from your space. They know their way around. They can help connect you, guide you, and advise you. So don't think just in terms of dollar signs. Think in terms of partnerships, collaboration, and having investors who bring more to the table than a few dollars.
So thanks everybody for tuning in to another edition of Adapters TechX. Lots to learn from this. I think the essence of it is get connected with the right investor who wants to get involved. And when they are involved, get involved with your investors so that you actually come out the other side with all the expectations and hopes that you had when you founded your product. So with that, thanks a million for listening and watching and commenting below. Check out our book, The Adapters, on Amazon, book repository and other locations. And we'll see you again next week. Thanks again for your time, and keep on teching.